Hello, this is Coach Trevor from Coaches of Technology. In this, the third in a series of video lessons on creating video lessons, I'm going to introduce you to Movie Maker and take you on a tour of the tabs. They're available with all of their tools involved with each tab. Okay, so the big question is, why are we going to do post-production editing? Well, the simple thing is it's easier to do it after the fact than it is before the fact. So I've got a comparison here on both sides of the screen. If you try to fix your narration within PowerPoint, very small edits are impossible. So if you say or if you accidentally sneeze in the middle of your presentation, or just say something wrong, it's very difficult to fix it here in PowerPoint. However, if during the course of your recording you realize that you've said something wrong, you can stop and start over again right within the PowerPoint presentation. And then afterwards, it's very easy to remove those mistakes. If you make a mistake on a PowerPoint slide, typically you have to go back and redo the entire slide. If your volume changes, it's very difficult to do that. Post-production, it's very easy to make these small edits, and you have on-the-spot volume control. Back in PowerPoint, though, all other fixes are easy and are probably done by the time you get to the narration, except for a few minor spelling mistakes. But in an external program, those types of things are nearly impossible to be made. But you can go back and redo a single slide and then slip that in as a clip in your post-production editing in a different program. So I'm suggesting that we use Windows Movie Maker in order to do this. It has several advantages. It really only has one disadvantage. It's not the most powerful program that's out there. However, it is fairly easy to learn, and it's free and very easy to download. It comes from a trusted source, Microsoft itself, as long as you trust Microsoft. And the quickest way to find it is to actually just Google Windows Movie Maker. Don't go for the first listing here. This is an ad for a different person who's selling things, and I'm not sure exactly what they're selling. But the next one down is actually from Microsoft.com, and there's a link here where you can click and you can install this just like you would any other program. This works on Windows 8, Windows 7, and even back in Windows earlier than that. Okay, so the basic workflow that we have when we're making edits to our movie in Windows Movie Maker is first we're going to open it up, of course. Then we're going to add the file that we made from PowerPoint. We'll adjust the sound level so that the sound levels are consistent throughout. And then we're going to watch the presentation and edit it where it's necessary. Basically what we do is break the video up into small clips, and then we can delete some of these clips. We can rearrange them a little bit if we need to. And speaking of clips, if you want to add an introduction clip or an outro clip at the beginning and end of your video, you can actually make those in PowerPoint and then use those again and again to give yourself a sense of consistency in your class throughout the semester. The final step will be loading it up into YouTube or your content management system. Now we're actually ready to get started. So first, of course, you're going to want to open up Movie Maker. And if you click over here, you can actually browse for your videos and photos. You're going to find that clip that you just made, and it might take a little while. Small clips, of course, load faster. That's one of the reasons that we try to keep our time lower here. Once that thing is loaded up, the window is going to change a little bit, and you'll have a preview window here that actually shows what the video looks like, or at least where you're at in the video. Down here you've got a play button and you've got a timer. The timer is in the format of minutes and seconds down to the hundredth of a second. And it shows you first the current and then the total time that you have in here. There's also a timeline over here of the video, and you've got a slider down here that you can move back and forth. As you do that, you make this section bigger and smaller. You can also adjust the size here to make your preview bigger or smaller. Let's take a tour of the tabs, though, in the video. The first tab we're going to start with is Home, of course, and it's got several different things across here. I've got them all listed here. The clipboard is just your standard tools. Add allows you to add more video clips. You can add some music for background if you'd like to. I typically don't do that because I'm assuming that my students are going to be listening to their own type of music while they're studying. Okay, you could add a webcam video if you wanted to. I do make use of this recording of narration, but most of these other things I don't bother with. There are themes that you can add. These are kind of whiz-bang things that you could do. I haven't found them to be very helpful. If you need to rotate your video or do something strange like that, you can do it over here with editing. And over here, you can save your movie, or you can actually share it with Vimeo or YouTube or some other type of an online video service. And speaking of services, the last thing here is you can actually sign into your Microsoft account. I have not found any benefit in doing that, although I do use Hotmail. Okay, the second tab is animations. You can add transitions, segues, fades, things like that. I just recommend that you don't do that. When you do it, it adds it to the whole clip. And because we're going to cut and dice our video quite a bit here, it's really not useful. If you're making a slideshow to show at somebody's wedding that just has static pictures, it might be very nice to do that. But for the teaching, it's really not necessary. You can also pan and zoom to different parts of the video. I haven't found this to be useful, although it might be useful if you have a video where you do something and you want to zoom in to a different point to look at it. But that's beyond making one of these simple videos using PowerPoint. The next tab is visual effects. These are basically eye candy. I really recommend that you avoid these for the same reason that I have you avoid doing transitions. But I'm going to leave a blank spot here, and I'm going to show you some of these to show you that they're cool, but not very effective for learning, at least in my opinion. On with the tour. The next is the project tab, and you can actually adjust the audio. So if you do have background music, you can emphasize the music, or you can emphasize the narration, or you can emphasize the video. So basically you've got 3 tracks in Movie Maker. You've got your narration track, which you could make by itself in Movie Maker, but I typically don't because you can't control your animations back in PowerPoint. That's why I recorded my audio back in PowerPoint. Then you can also have your video. Our video already has its narration involved, and you can also add a music track into the background. The important thing here on the project tab, though, is make sure that you're in widescreen. Again, I mentioned this before, but YouTube expects a 16:9 widescreen format. Otherwise, you're going to have letterboxes on the sides of your screen. The View tab allows you to adjust your view, of course. You can zoom in or out and so on. You can adjust the thumbnail size. You can fit your preview to full screen. I really don't use these things in this tab. I typically do them. There are sliders and things in the main window that I'll show you in a moment. But I do make sure that this is clicked. The waveforms are basically what the sound looks like. So in this example that I've got showing here, this section, this particular clip doesn't have any sound in it. So there's nothing going on down here at the bottom. This next part does have some narration in it. And you can see the louder I talk, the higher this narration goes. This outside here, this little spike is actually a clap where I made a mistake and started over. So make sure that you have that waveform tab so that they are showing up. Okay, the workhorse here is the Edit tab, and I typically am doing 90% of my work in this section. You can use the volume where you can adjust things up and down. This background tab is usually dimmed out, you can't really use it. Same way with the duration. You could adjust the playback using this speed if you wanted to speed up through a section.
You could do that. I can't imagine in most of my lectures ever actually using that.
And again, the workhorse of the program is this split, where you're actually going to take your 24-minute long video and cut it up into clips and then rearrange those clips or delete those clips as you need to. The trim section is another part that I don't use. I generally just split things and then delete the edges as I need to. Okay, so in review, that's been a quick run through of the tabs on Windows Movie Maker. And this is a very easy, cheap, and effective way to do post-production editing on your video lessons. And most of that editing will actually make use of the Edit tab under Video Tools. This has been Trevor from Coaches of Technology. I hope you find this useful, and I hope you will also revisit me for the next in our series where we will actually do the post-production editing.